Good morning. Just getting set up here. And we'll wait just another minute or so to let other people get logged in and join us. And just so everyone's on the same page, this is for VirtualPBX admin training. If you're a vConsole customer, you are going to want to go to the VirtualPBX website and under support, mouse over support, select vConsole, and under the support pages there, you'll see recorded training for the vConsole features and settings. We are no longer doing the live trainings for the vConsole platform. All right, looks like we just hit 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and start taking a look at Dash. So on your screen on YouTube, you should be seeing the Dash login page, which is just dash.virtualpbx.com. And your username is going to be your email address. One thing to keep in mind is if this is your first time logging in, sometimes your browser will capitalize the first letter of your email address. You want to make sure you change that to lowercase. The password should have been emailed to you when you signed up or when another admin created your username. And then lastly, the account name, which is typically your company name. Obviously, if you're just a single person business, it might be your name as well. Now, I typically recommend clicking on the Remember Me so you don't have to keep typing this in. I have to log into several different accounts, so I don't myself click Remember Me. And then if you ever forget your information, you've got the Forgot Info link here. Let's go ahead and get signed in. All right, so right here, this is our dashboard page. Now, if you've just signed up and it's the first time you're logging in, what you actually start off by seeing is this. Basically, your user information and your account information. Right, this is where you can change your time zone, for instance, right over here. Now, this is a test account, so it's not like a typical account. So for your accounts, you'll also have a separate section here for your billing information. So you can change your credit card information here, for example. I believe you can now get your invoices downloaded from there, etc. Also, for new accounts and your first time signing in, there'll be a little wizard pop-up to give you a brief rundown of some of these things. Once you're done with that, you go ahead and click Close, and then you're here in your dashboard. All right, so on the left here, these are your main navigations for setting up your system. Along the top, this is your account information, so you can get back to this page if you ever need to. Over here, a little question mark lets you get to our support team via chat. The web pages, the web phone link, as far as I know, only shows up once you've added a web phone to the account, which we'll be getting to later, as well as there's also a link there to the online store. Just for being a Dash customer, you should have a store code that would show up once you get to the store to get some money off of, say, physical Voip phone, for example. And up here, the three horizontal line icon, our support team sometimes refers to it as the hamburger icon, which normally just starts getting me hungry for lunch. Anyway, these are some other features of your account. Now, as an admin, you will have all of these available to you, including ACD queues, blacklists, faxes, etc. Your standard users typically will have access to their user portal and ACD queues if you have ACD queues on your account. And I think that is about all they have access to. And then lastly, we have the little logout icon. Right here, these are your total users on the account. So in this particular case, that's 23. Now, on some plans, the number of users you have, or the more users you have, could increase your bill. So that's something to be aware of. There are other plans where you have a minute pool and you can have as many users as you want. So that will vary from plan to plan. Next up, we got total devices, in this case 70, which is quite a lot. Probably means I need to go through and prune this down a little bit. And then they're broken down. So a soft phone is a software application. Works on a computer, can work on a tablet, can work on a smartphone. All right? It acts as a phone. So originally was designed to work on a computer. You have your computer connected to the internet. You can make and receive calls from your computer. That was the original point of it. Now that smartphones are so powerful, they can also run a cell phone app as well. Cell phone, pretty self-explanatory. Web phone is a special type of soft phone. This makes use of Chrome and Firefox. You basically add a web phone to a specific user. They can use their same Dash logins to get into the web phone page and then use Chrome or Firefox to make and receive calls. Does count as a Voip device. And typically, as far as I know, I haven't checked recently, but the web phones are free on all accounts. A SIP phone, that's Sierra Indigo Papa. That's a particular type of Voip phone. So this is usually a physical phone, sits on your desk. Yealink, Polycom, Cisco, et cetera, et cetera. There's many manufacturers. They have many models. Now, Cisco, for example, has some phones that are built specifically to work with Cisco hardware. Those out of the box aren't going to be compatible with VirtualPBX. You would actually, I believe you can get a firmware update, and then that will allow it to be a SIP phone, and then at that time you could program it to work with us. Right? But in general, if you're looking at buying a Voip phone to work with VirtualPBX, you want to make sure it's a SIP phone. You know, and specifically for SIP phones on Dash, what that means is it's a phone that has been auto-provisioned. Basically, you enter in a URL on the phone's UI that connects to us after you've added them to Dash, which, again, we'll get to. And then it'll reboot a couple times, and then it'll be on the account and ready to work. You don't have to do a whole lot of programming. And then landline, your old school phone number. Now, this unregistered means your Voip devices. So 46 Voip devices are not registered, meaning we can't send calls to them. And you can't make calls out from them. Right? Normally, on a normal account, when we would see that, we would say, "Whoa, is there something going on with your network? Are you moving things? What's going on?" All right. Total numbers. These are your phone numbers on the account. These are numbers that outside people call in to get to you, right? So these could be your main number, your fax box number, conference number, numbers that go to a specific user or to a specific ring group or to a queue, etc. We've got it broken down here first by assigned and spare. So assigned means it's going somewhere, right? So those areas that I mentioned earlier, right? Spare numbers means it's on your account, but it's not going anywhere, right? It doesn't ring to anybody. Now, every account has an allocation of phone numbers that are included as part of their plan price. I think that's anywhere from 1 to 15, if I remember correctly. Once you go over that, you are going to be charged per number. The list price, I believe, is $4.99 per month per phone number. So that's something to keep aware of. So if, in this case, right, I've got 40 phone numbers, so I'm over my allocated limit. So my spare numbers, I'm being charged for those, even though I'm not using them right now. Now, if I realize I'm never going to use them, I don't want these numbers, I can remove them and thus lower my bill. Further breakdown, USDID and US toll-free, right? Toll-free numbers, 888 something, 800 something, 833 something, right? Standard toll-free. USDID just means it's a particular number for a particular region, right? So a phone number in Odessa, Texas versus a phone number in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I think that's the right state. Pardon me if I'm wrong. It's been a long time since I've been in geography. All right. Conference bridges. This is the number of users that you have enabled conferencing on. So they have their own conference rooms. Then over here we've got main numbers. So all these numbers are your typical numbers that your average customer calls in to get to your system. These numbers all behave the same way. Right? So they're going to have the same greeting, right? They're going to all route the same way. initially. Down here, we've got the conference bridge number. So this is what the phone number everyone dials into to get to the conferencing. And then hopefully they know the conference room number they're going to, and then conference room PIN number to get in. Fax box number, this is so you can receive faxes. Right? That's the number you give out. Say, hey, if you need to send us a fax, here's the number. And then company users directory, it's 23. It doesn't have to match your users. You can choose to not have a user show up in the user directory. And then you have this download link in case you need to send it to staff members. All right, up here at the top, you've got your caller ID. So this is your default phone number for your VoIP devices when they make an outbound call that shows up on caller ID, right? You do have to have a phone number on your VoIP phones to show up as caller ID. If you don't have one set, the system's not going to let those VoIP phones make an outbound call. Now normally, this would be a pull down, so you could select any of your phone numbers, but my streaming software doesn't let me, or doesn't always show the pull downs for some reason. Oops. Next up, we got hold music. So hold music on dash. What that is call comes in and gets to a user, right? One of your staff members, they pick up their phone, they're talking to the customer. They press hold on their Yealing phone they have sitting on their desk. This is the default file that will play. You can upload your own hold music. It just needs to be in either a .wav or .mp3 format. It needs to be recorded in mono, and it has to be under 1 megabyte in size. So a 1 megabyte MP3, for example, is roughly 5 minutes, give or take. Now, it doesn't have to be just music. You could actually have like a message play as well while they're holding. And obviously, when your staff member picks back up, hold music stops playing. And if you choose to upload, you click here in the upload. You find the file on your computer, and then you click this little blue and white icon, little up arrow, to upload it. And then you would click on Save Changes. All right, let's go to your hours of operation. All right, so for a new account, the system puts you in 24-hour open office by default. All right, basically, hey, you're ready to take calls. That's really not how everyone likes it. So most people change it to custom office hours. You put a check mark for each day of the week that you're open. These boxes to the right are pull-down menus, and you select your open hours. Now, this is in 24-hour or military time. So in this case, I'm open from 9 to 5. You've got this little icon down here at the very bottom. Put a check mark here to say, hey, the whole office is closed for lunch, right? Everyone goes to lunch at the same time. They come back. So then you can, if you check this, basically tell your system, hey, from, what am I saying here? From 10:30 to 11:30, we're closed for lunch. So treat calls differently. And then you would save changes at the bottom. Let's go back up here to your main numbers so you can see all your main numbers on the account here. You can add any of your spare numbers at any time. You can buy numbers here directly, right? You got local or toll-free. You have a little gear icon next to each number. So you can set up the caller ID, specifically up here. This is the outbound caller ID name or CNOM, depending on who you talk to. This is restricted to 15 characters. That 15 characters includes spaces and special characters. This is an industry-wide standard as far as I understand it. Once you click Save Changes, that information gets transferred over to all the carriers who support CNAME. Takes up to about 3 business days for all of them to get updated because it's their servers. They control it when that update gets through. And then when you make outbound calls, that's the information that will be transmitted along with the phone number when you make an outbound call. Now, a couple things to be aware of. Not every carrier that calls route through supports CNAME. I don't know why. I couldn't even begin to find. I don't even know how I would find out why. It's just something that happens to exist right now. So, fortunately, that means a call can route through one of those carriers, and your CNAME information will not get through to the other end. Even for the carriers who do support CNAME, it's not their priority. right? For all telecom, priority is connect the call, right? Have the phone number show up of the other person. Those are the priorities. CNAME is way down that list. So if they're having a maintenance issue or they're having heavier than expected call volume, that information will drop first. Because again, they want to make sure the call connects first and foremost. Oh, and then inbound caller ID name, if you turn this on, that means if we get the CNAME information, we'll then transmit it to your phone so you can see it. And hopefully give you an idea of who's calling you. E911 or enhanced 911, this is basically asking you to input an address, basically your company headquarters. So this would be the default information for if someone picks up their Yealink phone, dials 911. This is the address by default that would be sent to emergency services. So one, you want to make sure you have correct addresses. For your remote employees, you can set this up individually on the device. So that way, Bob's sitting at home because he's, you're trying to have more people work from home than in the office, and he picks up his Voip phone, it'll show his home address versus the office address. Prepend is a field that is text. Basically, this is for Voip phones. So any call we send to a Voip phone, you can prepend from one of your main numbers, and basically so your staff members know an additional piece of information about what the call is, right? You can say, oh, special sale, and it'll show up on their Voip phone. Oh, cool, it's about the promotion we're having. All right, office holidays, put a check mark if you're closed for holidays. So, like a lot of people are closed yesterday. Then to add a holiday, over here on the right, you click Add Holiday. You've got single day, date range, and advanced. Single day, pretty straightforward. You just click single day. You'll get a new row here. You put in what you're calling it, and then you select the month and the day, and then you would click Save Changes. Date range, like here for Christmas, we're closed December 23rd to the 26th. Advanced is something like the first Monday in March. That way, every first Monday of March, you're going to be on a holiday. Now, one thing to keep in mind, there's no year indicator here. So, like if, for instance, you were closed on Monday, right? You had the office holiday for Monday. Next year, that probably changes from May 25th to May 26th. You wouldn't want to come in here today and change it to May 26th right off the bat, because then you're, boom, back in holiday mode. So you'd want to double check the calendar, obviously, and then just wait until that date has passed, and then you can update it. This is also important for, say, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, right? You don't want a date range that includes both, because the system then just puts you in closed or after hours mode basically all year, because it doesn't know which years you're talking about. All right, the big one, incoming call handling. So this is how your main numbers are handling the calls that come into them. All right. So you have some sub-tabs. First, your open hours. So when you're open for business, how are you handling the calls? All right. Now in this system, we said we're closed for lunch. So during your lunch hours, how do you want the system to deal with calls? And again, same question for your after hours and your holidays. We'll go to open hours because that's what most people focus on, and we have this first option here. So calls are coming in, and they're going to the virtual receptionist. Virtual receptionist is a link, and it'll open up a window here. All right, on the left, you've got your menu options, right? This is what people press on their phone to navigate through your phone system, right? 1 for sale, 2 for support, that sort of thing. You click Add Route, and you can, well, I can't show you the default, but you can have 0 through 9, and then you can choose where they're going. Let me see if I can, there we go. So you can send it to a particular person, for example. We've got, scrolling down, we've got call queues, so this account has ACD queues active. I can send it to a specific device, Next up, we've got a specific media file. I don't generally recommend a media file because after the media file is done playing, the call ends. There is a way around that. However, that takes some custom work. If you're interested in that, you would want to talk to our account services team because there might be a charge involved with that. Groups, these are ring groups, basically the group of people who answer a call about a similar topic. And then you can have it go directly to a voicemail box. We can do that, for example. And actually, all right. Next, over here on the right, we've got your greetings. So text-to-speech, just type it in. You click Update, Save, and then Save Changes, and it's playing. Upload your own file. .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. And then you can have your own greeting. Again, you choose your own file, find it on your computer, and then click Update. Choose from an existing recording. So you've already uploaded a bunch of files, right? Or you've been on, this account has been around for a couple of years, and someone told you, hey, you're in charge of our phone system now. Well, this is where you can go and check what other recordings that need to be updated. You can record it over the phone. Now, the system here, the instructions here say record the message over your phone using the follow step. So pick up a phone registered on this account. What that means is it's a Voip phone. All right, so it needs to be added to the account. It needs to be green or registered, so that way the system doesn't count it as an unregistered phone. And then you'd call into your main number. Now, if you don't have a greeting in place, it will prompt you to enter a PIN number to record a greeting, and you can do so. If you already have a greeting in place, when that greeting is planned, you can enter your PIN number at any time, and then you can then record a new greeting. Now, in that particular scenario, right, so you have a greeting in place, you called in to record over the phone. That new recording you make replaces the existing recording that's already there. In terms of the file name stays the same, right, but the contents of that file have now changed to what you just recorded. So that's something to keep in mind. You can choose from a professional recording service. So we have partnered with Snap Recordings. So when you click Order, it'll take you to their website. They have like 100 voice actors to choose from in terms of male and female. They've got different versions of English. They have a couple of versions of Spanish and a couple of versions of French. So you can do multilingual greetings if you want. They also have packages that include whole music treatments, right? So music with a script and then music and a script, etc. They handle their own billing. They'll deliver to you via email, typically speaking, and then you would simply upload. All right, settings, number of retries on misdial. Basically, how many times can your inbound caller hit the wrong menu option? In this case, 1. Right, you can change it to 2 or 3, which is what I typically recommend. And then after, do I have a default route still here? No. Oh, yes, I do. So this one right here, this is actually a default route. So after that failed routing attempt, right, so my inbound caller, hits, 7, right? That's not a valid option. Well, it's going to send them to this default route. In this case, that's sending them to John's voicemail. They can leave a message, call over, hopefully. Now, lately we haven't been recommending making use of default route because robodialers, right? Robodialers will come in, they use up your minutes on your account, right, which you're typically being charged on, and then they'll get to, in this case, they'll get to a voicemail, take up even more time, right? If you don't have a default route in place, the call will just end after this one attempt. It'll basically time out saying, hey, you didn't send a menu option, and say goodbye. Okay. And if you make any changes on your virtual receptionist, you click Save, and then you click Save Changes here, and then all your changes have gone through. All right. Now, next option, call comes in. We are offering it to Bob. Bob's not able to pick up. It goes to the virtual receptionist. Right now, since we're under open hours, this virtual receptionist will have the same settings as that first option here. Now, you can send it to different users. You can send it to a call queue, right? If you have a queue on your account, you can send it to a particular device. And you also can send it to a ring group, which is what typically people do. Oh, you do have a media file. Right. So basically what this option is, you're giving a staff member or multiple staff members an opportunity to answer the call first. They're not able to get it, then it goes to a virtual receptionist so the inbound caller can make a menu option choice or enter an extension number. And then this last option here, call comes to a user, again in group, etc. And if they're not able to answer, it's going to go to a voicemail box. This one also has an option up here under users where you can just, at the very bottom, right there, you can just have it go straight to voicemail. So for like your lunch hours, here, we can go to lunch hours here. You can just do this. Skip the voicemail. So now we're just saying, hey, calls come in during my lunch. Send it right to voicemail. Right. So each of your hours or types of times of day that you have, you can have different routing. And the virtual receptionist will be different. So if we click here, you'll see there's more menu options here than under my open hours. So this allows you some flexibility in terms of what you're doing depending on the time of day. All right, main conference number. You can unassign it, meaning you don't want to use it here anymore, or you want to get rid of the number completely. The custom greeting is currently a text-only greeting, or text-to-speech only greeting. I know customers have made a feature request to be able to upload their own file for this. I don't know any status on that, unfortunately. Again, you can add additional conference numbers via your spare numbers, or you can select a number via the by numbers. Your main fax box number, you can only have one fax box number as your main. You can have an individual fax box number for users if you want. If you unassign, again, it goes in your spare list. Now, on your account, when you click Edit Fax Box, you'll get a pop-up, and you have two fields. So the first field is for an email address of who's receiving the faxes that come into the account. Any fax that comes in, you're going to get a PDF attachment, which you can then open right on your computer. The other field is generally speaking used with a domain, right? So if you have your company's own email domain, right? So at abccleaners.com, that's your email domain. Everyone in your company has an email address that ends in that. You can add at abccleaners.com into that second field. Click Save. And then anyone with an email address that ends in at abccleaners.com can then send a fax out. They do not have to be a user on the account. Right, so just put in the domain, and then everyone can fax out. Now, to send a fax out, you need to create an email. In the to field of that email, you put +1, right? So the plus sign, the number 1, and then the area code and phone number that you're faxing to. You have the @ symbol, and then you need your company domain, which you can get by going under your account, and that's this thing right here, your account realm. So +1, area code and phone number at account realm, and then you attach a PDF or a TIFF, and you send it out. All right. Next up, we got numbers. So these are numbers on your account. Basically, this page will show you where they're going. These red ones here were port attempts that have not completed and won't. They were just tests. But in general, you can see where phone numbers are going. Over here, this is your spare numbers. Yeah, okay. This is where you can also buy. You can buy numbers here. So toll-free, for example, we'll choose 866. We'll see what's available. So as you list that available numbers, you can add numbers. You can add multiple if you want. Click on Buy. So basically, it's verifying the numbers were still available, and then, hey, we're adding them to the account. And so now they're in my spare number pile. Now I can go back to any place I want and add it via Add Spare Numbers. Some of those other areas, like under the users or the fax box conference number, you can also just buy directly and skip having it go in your spare numbers, instead going it directly where you wanted it. Right, to delete a number, you have to be on your numbers page. They have to be in your spare numbers tab here. You put a check mark. You notice this delete came up. Delete the numbers. It says, yes, they were successfully removed from your account, and now I'm no longer going to be charged for those. All right. Port, so porting is the basically moving a phone number from one carrier to another, right? So before you came to VirtualPBX, you were with AT&T. So you want to move that phone number from AT&T to VirtualPBX because you want to make sure, all your literature is up to date with the right phone number. You have customers who are already used to calling that particular phone number, and you don't want to lose their business by getting a disconnect message. So you can start in the porting process here, and you basically would follow the on-screen steps. The things that we basically need is a filled-out letter of agency. Also referred to as an LOA. It needs to have the information that your current carrier has on file for that phone number, right? So say you're coming from AT&T, we need to have the billing information match up. So whatever AT&T has for the company name or the person name associated with it, the address on file, etc. That'll have to match up with what AT&T has on file. It needs to be actually signed. Now you can use Acrobat. You can put a signature in. That's fine. You don't actually always have to print it out. It just can't be typed in for the person's name for where the signature section is. If you're porting a local number, right, i.e. non-toll-free, then we will also need a recent copy of your bill. It should be within the last 30 days. You can, again, upload both of those documents via this porting process. You can also download a blank LOA through this porting process. The blank LOA is also available on the VirtualPBX pages under the support sections for Dash and vConsole. There's also a sample filled out one just to give you an idea of what we're looking for. So once we get those documents, we submit that. So online portal process basically. Then it gets transmitted to your current carrier. They say, yes, that's all legit, hopefully. They let us know, we're going to release the number to you on this date. And then we communicate that to you. Now, in the porting process, you can request a particular date. It needs to be a date in the future. We can't guarantee that date because your current carrier, they decide when they're releasing it to us. Right? We could say, customers requesting this, it's up to them if they want to comply with that or not. Generally speaking, a local number usually takes about 1 to 2 weeks. That's the average. Toll-free numbers takes about 3 to 5 business days, give or take. All right, so now we're on the users page. Add a user, pretty straightforward. You input their name, right? Now the email address used for login, this has to be unique, right? So let's say you have a support staff and they've been sharing support at virtualpbx.com. Well, you can only use that particular email address for one of them. The rest of your staff, if they need to be a user on the account, you could use something like support 1 and support 2. They don't have to be legit email addresses. It just needs to look right. However, if those users ever need to recover their passwords, right, they need to have a legit email address. To get voicemail delivery properly, they also should have a legit email address. You can then create a password. and then you can assign an extension number. Now, the extension number, you can put in anything you want, right? In this case, the system is recommending 1015 because that's the next available one, starting with 1000, because I started the first user with extension 1000. So it says, hey, here's the next one that's available. All right, then by default, the system will create a voicemail box for this user. I do recommend leaving that. The other thing I recommend is this last one down here. Send credentials to the user. That way they know how to log in. Kind of helpful. And the last one option here in the middle is include them in the user directory or not. And then you can either if you're just adding one user, you just click on create user. If you're adding multiple, then you can create user and add another. All right, so you've got the little gray people and then the blue people with suits. Gray people are your standard users. The people with the blue suits, those are your admins, right? So admins have the same access here to everything. Actually, here we go. So when you click on the person's name, you can change their name. You got a link here to change their credentials, so you can change the email address or the password as necessary. Change their voicemail box PIN. Now, if your users are predominantly using VoIP phones, you don't need to address this at all. You can just leave it as is, because they can pick up their VoIP phones and hit *98, which automatically logs them into their voicemail box. They don't have a PIN assigned. The system will prompt them to enter a PIN, and then again to confirm it, and then they create their own PIN, and you don't have to worry about it. Now, if your staff, on the other hand, is using, say, cell phones, you do need to create a PIN number for them ahead of time, and then give that to them. Send emails to alternate address. So this would be in addition to their email login address, right? So, like, I want to get my voicemail sent to my personal Gmail account. You could then, or you want them to, because you want to make sure they're getting their voicemails no matter what, put a check mark here and then enter in that email address. Again, you've got the option here to include them in the user directory or not, so you can always change your mind. Over here, this is a pull down that's unfortunately not showing, but this is where you can change someone from a user to an admin or from an admin down to a user. If you just signed up, please don't change yourself to a user. It does happen occasionally, not very often though. Next up, we got your time zone for this user. Again, it's user or the language to show. I believe it's English, French, Russian. I think they recently added German. Yeah, it's not showing up. Then we got this right here, ringing timeout. So by default, this is set to 20 seconds. 20 seconds is typically enough time for a landline or a VoIP phone. It may not be enough time to cell phone. So if you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you probably want to bump this up to 60 seconds just to make sure there's enough time to get to them. And that's simply because it takes more time to route a call to a cell phone than it does, say, to a VoIP phone that's on your desk, right? Your VoIP phone's in one location. We know exactly where it is. When we send a call out to a cell phone, your cell phone carrier has to find you, right? So bouncing signal off cell towers, and then the call gets to you. Now, in this case, you notice here there's a note. It's being overridden by the follow me feature. And I can click on that to edit this. Basically, this means I have multiple devices, so I customize the settings to deal with those multiple devices. This is my main extension number. Users can have multiple extensions. And then the privacy, which is just at the default. On the extensions box, this is where I can assign additional extensions to a user. The primary example I'm used to is whenever our head of our sales department, whenever he loses a salesperson, right, he immediately takes over their extension. So one, if any calls come in directly to that extension, he gets them. So either he can handle it or hand it off to another staff member. Also, if there are any voicemails, right, because he's not able to get the call at the time or whatever, he can still get those voicemails and, again, make sure those customers or potential customers are contacted, i.e., so we don't lose sales. All right, phone number. User can have multiple phone numbers, right? So I can add some spare, or again, I can buy directly, so it just assigns it to this person right off the bat, right? So this phone number then comes directly to me. It doesn't go through the virtual receptionist at all. Right. And then here we've got our devices. So these are the devices I already have. I can add devices here. So SIP phone, right? So this is a physical desk phone. You can choose from these manufacturers, and then you can find the specific model of your phone. Once you do that, it will prompt you to enter in the MAC address of the phone. This should be a sticker on the back side of the phone. It's unique to each phone. They each have their own individual ones. It'll also ask you to name the phone. And then once you add a device, you click Save Changes, right? So say I'm adding a Yealink device, I put in the MAC address, I put in, Bob's phone, and then hit Create Device, and then Save Changes. Now, in terms of the dashboard, that's all Dash wants. For the phone, you need to log into the phone's web UI and enter in a URL. The information's on the support pages for Dash. You enter that in, the phone goes, oh, great, let me get on the internet, connect to that web page. Right? Phone connects, the web page asks for the MAC address, gets transmitted. Right? System says, oh, yes, you added this already. Here's your configuration information. Sends that information to your phone. Voip phone reboots, usually twice, I believe it is. But after that, then shows up on it'll already be on your account, but it'll come up as connected, and you can just pick up the phone and make use of it. The advantage of this is what we call auto-provisioned phones, is basically you can make use of all of the features on the phone. Right? Now, let's say if you can't find your phone on any of these lists, what you would then have to do is come down here to soft phone, read the little message here. Again, give it a device name, and then you would use this information to program your phone. Now, we have guides for some phones on how to do it this way. Not very many, just because there's way more models of phones out there than we can get a hold of. But yeah, this is information you would use to program that particular device. You're not, when programmed that way, the only expectation I can give you is to expect that that phone can make and receive calls. Anything else that's built onto that phone, you might not be able to make use of. Probably the hold button. But yeah, it typically has less utility than if it was an auto-provisioned device. All right. We skipped over cell phone. Let's get back to that. Put a name, then you put +1 area code and phone number. You click Create Device. You click Save Changes. So this is a cell phone. If you go under here to Options, so this is the default of how a new cell phone or landline looks under the Advanced Options. So what happens? Customer calls in, hits your user, it gets sent out to your cell phone. Your cell phone rings. You pick up. You'll hear a message first that says, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. So by pressing 1, you're telling the system, yes, you are there, and you're ready to take the call. It hears that tone come through, and it connects the inbound caller to you. You begin talking. If you don't press 1, then it's either going to ring your next device, if you have multiple devices, or go to your user voicemail box. Now, if, for instance, you want the voicemails to come to your cell phone directly, right? You're like, you're moving around a lot. You're like, I don't want to miss a sales call or have to dial into a separate system. I can just dial into my cell phone's voicemail. It's easy. So you can do that by clicking this box and clicking Save Changes, right? So allow use of cell phone's voicemail. So instead of being told to press 1 to accept the call, you pick up, call connects. Likewise, if your voicemail on your cell phone picks up, we still treat that as a connected call, so the inbound caller ends up on your cell phone's voicemail. Some people love this, some people don't. The other reason you would want to click on this, right, so allow your cell phone's voicemail, is if in reality what you're doing is sending a call to an automated answering service. Right? Automated answering service can't press 1. They normally have some sort of automated message come up and play. So in that instance, again, you would want to allow use of cell phone's voicemail because we hear that pickup tone, call connects and gets to your automated answering service. Right. Keep original caller ID. Basically, this shows the person's phone number who's calling into you. If you uncheck it, then what happens instead is the phone number that shows up is one of your VirtualPBX phone numbers, right? So one of your main numbers, if they called in that way, your personal user number, whatever. That's what shows up. So that's an easy way for you to look on your cell phone and say, oh, this is a work call versus some random phone number I've never seen before, which is probably a robodial or a political call of some sort. So soft phone, in addition to using it to program another device, like a physical phone that you couldn't find on under the SIP list, is if you were using a application from, say, like another company, right? So you're using XLite from the company called Counterpath. It's a soft phone application. It's referred to as a third-party soft phone. Again, you would use this information to program that device. Now, if you want to use a VirtualPBX soft phone, you want to click right down here where it says, see it says use third-party application. That's kind of grayed out. Click on that. Now it says, oh, use VirtualPBX application. You create a name, you click create device, you click save changes. The reason you would do this on the user is that it ties it directly to that user. That user gets an email saying, hey, here's your login information for your soft phone. It's going to be different than their Dash login. And then they can download the app from the requisite store. We do have a desktop version of these apps. So by default, so the mobile version on Android and Mac and iOS, we have desktop for Windows and Mac OS. The desktop versions do have a license fee, which is listed at $39.99. So if you want those versions, you're going to want to order them. Next up, we've got web phone. By the way, that first pop-up that I'm closing is just saying, hey, make sure you have your E911 set properly. Again, you give it a device name, you click create device. Now, the web phone you want to make sure you create on the user page specifically because it uses the same login as the Dash login to get to the web phone. Right? So if you do it on the, say, the devices page, which we're getting to shortly, it doesn't know what user you're talking about. So you'd have to assign it, and they should still be able to get in, but it's just easier if you just create the web phone on the user page directly. All right, and then landline is basically the same as cell phone. So next we'll get to the user features. All right, caller ID number. This only works for a user that has their own individual phone number. If you turn it on, this is the outbound caller ID whenever this user makes a call from one of their Voip phones. Right? If I turn it off, it'll be the main number on the account. Call forwarding. By default, this is off. If you turn it on, you're basically saying, hey, I'm not going to be at my normal phones, so send it to this phone instead. Right? So you don't want to forward to one of your normal phones. So say, for instance, I'm going to forward to my cell phone. Well, my cell phone should not be already a device on my user because if I already have it on my user, I don't need to forward. Right? Because you can set it up to bring my user or my cell phone via the user page anyway. So this is when you're forwarding to a phone you don't normally use for work. The cool feature for Voip phone users is failover mode. Basically, your Voip phones lose connection. The system detects that, right? Unregistered Voip phone. The system detects that, says any call that comes to user and instead send to this phone number. Again, like your mobile phone. Hot desking is a Voip feature. Let's go ahead and enable that real quick. So you need a hot desk ID. I usually recommend making it like their extension number. Up to you if you want to make sure if they have a PIN. Now, what this does is, or what it's used for, is if you're in a situation where you have users who sit at different desks for different day of the week, right? Basically, you have identical workstations. It doesn't matter where people sit. They just bring in their particular laptop or whatever, but their phone, they can just pick up the phone, hit there's a Voip phone at the workstation. That hit *11, that turns on hot desking. It'll ask them for the hot desk ID, and then calls to their user go to that phone that they're sitting at that day. At the end of their shift, they pick up the phone again, hit *12, that turns off hot desking. They go home. Next day they come in, they're sitting at a different desk. Like, oh, well, pick up the Voip phone, hit *11, calls are coming to them at that desk. Simple. Obviously, if you're in a situation where everyone is at the same desk every day, same phone, then you don't need hot desking. Voicemail, again, every user by default is created with a voicemail box, so that's enabled. Fax box. So a user can have their own fax box. So like you have a particular role for a staff member where they're getting lots of faxes, and you don't want that coded in with the general main fax box number. You have a couple options. Right? You can select a spare number, you can buy a new number, or you can give them an extension number. I typically recommend making use of a phone number because if you use an extension, what has to happen is the person who's faxing in has to call your main number, wait for the greeting, enter the fax box extension that they're going to fax to, and then hit send fax. Whereas if you just give it a phone number, they just type in enter in the phone number, hit send fax, and they walk away, which is what I'm used to doing because I had a job where I did a lot of faxing. And the other advantage of just having that phone number, if people are using an email to fax service, they may not have the option to put like pauses and enter an extension number. Right? That just depends on the eFax service. Conference bridge. So if you enabled it for a user, right, then here's their conference room number, and then here's their PIN. Follow me. This is for a user who have multiple devices. You can see here I've got 3 that are enabled, and I have another one that has said, hey, don't ring. Up here is the default ring duration for all the devices, which by default is 120. Now, if I want to include this device, I uncheck it, if it lets me. Oh. There we go. And then I've got this little line here. Now, what I can do is I can click and drag if I want to, or I can click distribute up here, and now it goes in that order. If I don't like this order, for instance, I want that one to be first, I just click and drag it up, and hit redistribute. Now, these are all sliders, so I could also click and drag each slider. So I could do it something like this. This would be what I'm doing here is what's referred to as blast ringing. So now all my devices are ringing for the entire time until I pick up from one of them. And again, you would save changes if you want it to be that way. Music on hold. Users can have their own hold music, right? So like your sales staff, you might want to have a different message than for your customer support staff or your billing staff, etc. You just hit enabled. You would upload a file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. And then you would click save. You would click upload the file, and then click save changes. Customized call recording. All right, so first you have to enable it as a feature, right? So here, let's go back. All right. So by default, it starts off as disabled. All right. If you click enabled, it says, hey, you are responsible for any local laws dealing with notifying the other person that they're being recorded. And this is the default setup. So even though call recording is enabled, you notice that the account default is off, so you're not done, right? So inbound internal means my coworker Bob called me. If I want to record that call, turn it on, right? Inbound external. So customer calls in, talks to me. That's probably one you typically do want to have recorded, right, on what he was looking for. And then outbound external, I'm calling a customer back saying, hey, here's your shipping update, etc. Now, you don't have to do all or nothing, right? So I could do something like that. So I don't care about internal communications, but those external ones I want recorded. And then you would click Save Changes. And then Do Not Disturb means, hey, I'm not taking calls. All right, let's go to groups. So groups, again, group of people answering a call about a similar topic. Basically, these are a basic version of what a queue can do. Queues have advanced routing options, which we'll get into shortly. You can add a group, you give it a name, and you give it an extension number. The extension number is basically so other staff members can transfer calls to it. And then you click and drag people over that you want to add to the group. You click on Create Group. Right. Once you've created a group, you can click on the name. You can always change the name. And then you've got dialing repeats, which over here to the right you can see it's got some little arrows. I'm not sure how clear that is to see on YouTube. But basically this allows you to determine how many times an inbound caller can try to go through the group. And there we go. All right, next you can click on members. All right, so I've got 4 people in this group, and right now I have a total ring time here of, again, 120 seconds. And so I'm ringing each person 30 seconds. Like before, I can click and drag people around. I can redistribute. I can click and drag all the way across, so I can do blast ringing. And those are basically your only real ring options, right? You can do a variation where you're like, oh, this person calls like this, and have some overlap, etc. Purely up to you. Obviously, if you want to remove someone, you can do so here. You can also increase the amount of time if you want. The extension number, again, groups can have multiple extension numbers just by clicking Add Extension. A group can have its own phone number, meaning, again, that phone number, if people dial that number, it goes directly to the group. It doesn't go through the virtual receptionist or anything like that. Add from spare, you can buy a new. And then you've got group features. Call recording. So calls coming into the group, they're either all recorded or they're not. So if you enable it, they're being recorded. If you disable it, they're not. Ring back. If you enable it, this is essentially hold music while they're waiting for one of your staff members to answer the call. We do recommend to make sure that the length of your file matches your ring duration of the group, right? So default is 120 seconds. So by default, you want to make sure this file is 120 seconds long. Again, if you upload .wav.mp3 recorded in mono under 1 megabyte, and then you click Save Changes. This is probably the most important one. If no one's able to answer, what do you want the system to do? Generally speaking, you can either have them go to the main menu or you send them to a voicemail box. All right, allow call forward. Again, allows your ring group members to make use of call forwarding, i.e. they know they're not going to be at your desk, so you can let them get to whatever device they're going to be at. Otherwise, it just will only ring to their devices on that or on the user itself. And then caller ID prepend. Again, this is for your Voip phone users. You can put in additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID that shows up on their phone so they know what the call is about. Devices, this shows all your devices on the account. You do typically want to see them be green because that means we can send calls to them and get calls from them. Red would tell you that, oh, that phone is not connected for some reason. That could be something as simple as someone didn't plug it in, or it could be something as complicated as you're having a network issue of some type. If you ever see a phone that's black, actually here, oops, wrong thing. There we go. We got a black phone. That means it's just been disabled on the account. So quick fix, hey, make sure it's on. You can get to the settings of an individual phone if you need to, so you can adjust the phone number, like on this case, for a Voip phone. All right, you see the device name and the account. You can get the SIP information here to make use of it if you need to. And then you can add devices up here as well. Main caveat is if you're going to add a VirtualPBX soft phone or a web phone, you're better off adding that to the user directly. All right, voicemail boxes. These are all the voicemails on the account, or voicemail boxes on the account, excuse me. Notice that many of these have names associated under the user, right? So these were the voicemail boxes that were created with the user at the same time. You can add an additional voice box or voicemail box on your own. Just give it a name, a number, i.e. a voicemail box number, kind of like an extension number, and a PIN number. Right, so this you would use for, say, like your ring groups, for example, or if you're making use of queues. Once they're created that way, the main voicemail box is automatically created for the account. Under options, so any, here, let's go to a different one here. So any manually created voicemail box, you're going to want to upload a media file of some sort or choose one that existed, right? So that's the voicemail box greeting. Again, .wav.mp3 recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. And you've got the upload option here. Recipients, basically just add a recipient and add their email address. So once you've done those two, then you would go under options, and then you can say, hey, this is already set up. The other thing we typically recommend is this one here, delete after notification. Basically, by default, when you have an email address added to a voicemail box, when a voicemail is received, it gets sent to that email address. And it's an attachment, so they can just, whoever is getting can double-click on it and listen to it right on their computer or their phone. And then the system will automatically delete the voicemail from the system. And the reason you'd want to do that is the voicemail boxes are restricted to 100 messages. Once they get there, it says, mailbox is full, please try again later, which can be frustrating for your customer. Next up, we got your greetings manager. So these are all your greetings on the account. You can download them and so that you can listen to them and make sure they're still relevant. The source is recording, i.e. you recorded over the phone, TTS, text-to-speech, upload, you uploaded it. I don't know if there's any others. You can click on the little edit icon here, little wrench. So this is where you can change the name so you can make it a little bit more easily identifiable for you. Or you can say, hey, I don't need this anymore, and you can just delete it completely. Call logs. This is basically your call traffic on the account. The green arrow to the right means the call came into the system. If you ever see a yellow arrow to the left, that means it's an outbound call. You can typically click on here and get additional information about where it went. However, since it's a test call, it might be a little bit harder. So basically, this is telling me, hey, a call came into this phone from this phone number, went to this phone number here. Normally, like you would say, it's going to this particular device, right? User whatever for SIP device or phone number for cell phone or landline. Then we got your feature codes. Again, these are shortcuts on your Voip phones you can make use of. The feature codes are also published on the Dash support pages. So you don't have to log in to get to them. You can just say, hey, here's this. You can tell your staff members where to go so they can print it up themselves if they want, and they can make use of them that way. Right, so like your users, for instance, can update their own call forwarding. You don't have to do it for them every time. All right, then we'll go over here. So right now we're on the dashboard. Over here we've got ACD Queues Pro. There's also just standard ACD queues. So ACD queues are an additional charge to make use of. ACD queues, I believe, start around, I think they range between like $10 and $30 depending on the plan. ACD Queues Pro, I believe they're at $99. Again, check with your salesperson or our account services team. They can verify the pricing based on your plan. So let's get into it here. So first, this is the standard view as an admin. Your users will not have this middle icon here. Your standard, any user who assigned to a queue, can change their own status, right, ready, or they can end the session. This little phone icon here, this allows them to show or choose which device they're going to have calls sent to. Now, for both ACD queues and ACD Queues Pro, we're only sending calls to VoIP devices, right? So if you have cell phone or landline users predominantly, you're restricted to making use of ring groups. But once you're using VoIP phones, you can make use of ACD queues or ACD Queues Pro. All right. Now, all right, you can add a new queue up here, or we're going to go ahead and just click on this one here and then get into the settings. So we can edit the queue settings. All right, so we start at basic info, so the name of the queue. A queue can have either an extension or a phone number. If you want to have multiple, you would have to talk to account services because that would require custom work, which might have a fee associated with it. General settings, okay, call limit. So you can limit the number of calls that can be in a queue. In this case, 0 means there's no limit. So many calls can be in here as you want. Queue timeout, this is how much time that inbound caller can wait on hold. And then timeout immediately is empty. Basically, if I have no agents logged in, just immediately time out any caller that comes in. Now, 0 out to call flow. Basically, if that inbound caller presses 0, do I allow it, right? So I just enabled it. And then where am I sending to? In this case, I'm sending it to a voicemail box. Oh, actually, I'm sending it to a device. Normally, I would say you want to send it to a voicemail box. So let's go ahead and display agents to other agents. Basically, this allows your agents to see the status of other agents, i.e. they can see who else is on a call, etc. And then record all calls that are coming to queue, yes or no. Now, escalation handling. If you make use of an escalation queue, that is a second queue, so it's going to raise your bill. So you could send it to another queue. If you leave it to none, then the escalation call flow would go to here. So, and again, if they have no agents, that goes to here as well, which means I'm sending it to the main voicemail box. Routing strategy. All right, so here are your 4 routing strategies. I believe there's supposed to be a 5th one. That might be coming. Anyway, so most idle, who's been waiting for the call the longest? All right, least call handled, basically least number of connected calls, right? So Bob spoke to 2 people, Mary spoke to 5. Next call that comes in is going to go to Bob because he's only talked to 2. Now, least offers made. So Bob's been offered 20 calls. Mary's only been offered 5 calls. Next call comes in, goes to Mary. Right, and then round robin, equally distributed among the users. Hold treatment. This is for Pro. You've got a lot of advantages here because you can do things like you can announce their position. You can then say, hey, play a media file and choose whichever one. could say announce their await, etc. On ACD queues, the standard product, you basically can get to upload a whole music file, and that's it. Agent behavior, basically the agent connect timeout, how much time are we offering a call to an agent, so default's 20 seconds. Recovery time, basically when they're done with the call, give them this amount of time in seconds to, finish their notes, get a drink of water, etc. And then you can also allow extensions. Again, you can determine that. Now, this is ACDQ's Pro feature. This is not on the standard product. All right. And then message or member assignment. You can choose people. Right, you just click and then you said, hey, I'm adding you all to the queue. So now these people can answer calls in this queue. And then lastly, hey, review your queue. You can also download this or print it out. So this is a Pro feature where you can say, this are my settings. Let me download it so we have an example of it, of what we want to do. And then if something ever changes, you can say, wait. On this date, we had it set up this way. So who went in and changed it? And you can figure out what's going on. Down here, members. So this is your general membership, right? So you can say, hey, these are all the people who are in the queue. If you click on manage, and these are the people who are all the users on the account. So these people are not in any queues, whereas these people can be in any of my queues, right? So if I want to add Novidar here, I click and add him over. So now he can be in any of the queues. Where let's say I want to take these two guys out, right? And now they're not going to be in any queue at all. Versus when we were in that queue field where we added the individual members, that's taking from this list over here on the right. All right, then this middle icon here, again, this is an ACDQ's Pro feature, but basically what this allows you to do is you can take staff members and you can compare them or based on queue. So you can say who's doing what and how well, etc. Blacklist, this allows you to block phone numbers from reaching your system. Right, so you would click Edit Blacklists, either add a brand new one, or edit an existing one. You can change the name. Block Anonymous means if we don't get a valid caller ID, we just block the caller from calling in. Otherwise, you would add a number, and you put +1 area code and phone number. You would then click Save. You go back to Settings. Then you click and drag the one you want to make use of, or one, you can have multiple, and click Update. So now when any of these phone numbers call into the account, they get a busy tone. Faxes, as an admin, you can get to any fax box on the account. So you can see what people are doing, see outbound. The most important one is this one here, the email to fax logs. This will tell you why outbound faxes are failing. This assumes that they worked right in the beginning. So basically, this will give you additional information about what's going on. Like sometimes people forget the attachment, or they try to use an invalid attachment type, etc. Let's see. Oh, monitor. This allows you to see what your staff is doing. So green means they're waiting for a call. Blue means they're on an inbound call. Red means they've marked themselves away. Yellow is they're on the recovery time from a queue, and then there's like an orange, that's they're on an external call, usually meaning they're on an outbound call. User portal, this is something everyone has access to. It's just their own portal, right? So voicemails, this shows up like this because I have delete after notifications, right? If you don't have that enabled, then they would see their voicemails here. They could listen to them and delete them themselves. Call history, they can see the history of the calls that they have made. They can change the date range. Faxes, they can look at their own faxes. The contact list, this is everything within the account, right? So all the various users, the ring groups, etc., their extensions, what have you. you're not going to be able to add to this, right? So you cannot add your personal contacts to this list. Conference, this is where your users would manage their conferencing. They can invite other users on the account to a conference. They can lock a conference. They can mute everybody, unmute everybody, hang up. Over here under participants in an actual conference, they can mute particular people. They can kick particular people as well. And then over here, you've got the other information, right? So the moderator pin, i.e. I'm in charge of the conference, that's what I would use. Otherwise, the people who are just joining in as general participants, this is the pin they would use. Settings and devices, again, they can enable their own call forwarding here if they want to. And there's specific phone numbers as well as see their devices. Voicemails, again, any admin can get to any voicemail on the account or any voicemail box on the account and see what's going on. Reports is in beta, so it's not enabled on this account. If you are interested in the advanced reporting, I believe there is a fee associated with that, but you would want to contact our account services team to be aware of that. Webhooks allows you to make use of APIs to integrate Dash with other software. The call recording goes to your call recording site, which is under AWS. And then you have further integrations with AWS, which I don't have access to either on this account. And that is everything. All right. So yeah, as I just said, this is everything for Dash training. This is going to be recorded, so you can always come back here into our YouTube channel and see this recording as well as previous recordings if you want to. Obviously, if you're going to have other staff become admins, you can give them that link or they can sign up for their future trainings. There's also a version of this on our Dash support page as well. And there's a couple other videos on our Dash support pages where it breaks down on particular sections, which might be more useful as well. But beyond that, I thank you for your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.